The best way, like any in-house legal team can help with marketing is by getting reviews from clients.
Sharp strategies, sweet success.
Hello, everyone. This is Tiffany-solo. I'm writing solo this week. Christina's out for vacation, but the show must go on. As a lot of you business owners know, it's important to keep up with recording schedules because marketing always needs content. But today I'm not talking about content. Today I'm actually talking to you guys about Google Business because I wrote a post on LinkedIn about Google Business this last weekend, had a few people like it and comment on it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Google Business as it stands in 2024 and talk to you guys about strategies that we use to maximize Google Business for law firms. So 15 years ago, if you said digital business card, most people probably would have thought of a website because that's what websites were 15 years ago, your digital business card. It was the only way a business had to make like a permanent place online that would house all the information about the business and what they did. And so that was the digital business. That was the digital business card 15 years ago. But that's not necessarily the case today. Like websites, they're a vehicle for SEO. They are a place that house a lot of our marketing assets. They're pretty much everything the law firm has to offer and can offer the public. And so a lot of law firms have a lot of resources on their site, like ebooks, their webinars, all of their content. The website is still, like, very important and, like, an integral part of the law firm marketing department, but it's not what it used to be anymore. Back a couple years ago, like, Google started talking about, like, zero-click searches, or well, really all SEO started talking about zero-click searches, and what they were saying is that a lot of queries in Google are now being answered without clicks to your website, and so this was talked a lot about when featured snippets came out. If you're not too familiar, featured snippets are if you were to Google something, a query, the answer would pop up right there in Google. Like you wouldn't need to actually click through to the site. Google picked out and highlighted the answer to your query in a featured snippet. And it was really beneficial to quote unquote capture a featured snippet with your website by answering one of those queries. And so, like, that the website is still really important, but then there's this idea of zero-click searches, these queries that are answered without actually having to go into the site. And zero-click searches only increased over the years. And now we're seeing generative search, or SGE, which kind of on shaky ground right now. The other day I Googled something and expected the generative search option to come up and it didn't. And so Google is kind of rolling it back for some searches, keeping it for others because it can give really strange answers to questions and just doesn't appear like a ready for launch in any way. But that's maybe my opinion, maybe not necessarily the truth. That's also a lot of what people are saying on LinkedIn about the generative search experience or SGE is what it's called. Anyway, so zero click searches, we're getting fewer visits to our website, and businesses have to attract leads in this environment where not everyone is going to make it to our homepage. Not everyone is going to make it to our biography pages. Not everyone's going to make it to our case result pages. And so here we are trying to figure out how to get these leads, and we can't get them to our biggest marketing asset, to our website. So Google Business has been an important part of this equation for a long time. Ever since Google Maps took over for MapQuest or whatever was before it, those little GPS things we used to put in our cars that gave us directions. That's probably dating me at this point. But like before Google Maps, that's what we had. And with Google Maps, we got this new thing like Google Business listings. And sometimes they used to be kind of an extension of our Google Plus profiles. Now they're their own standalone thing. They used to be called Google My Business, and now they're called Google Business Profiles, which is definitely more professional sounding. It was probably pretty weird for companies like IBM to have a Google My Business profile, which sounds really doesn't quite fit what IBM does for sure. Anyway, so we have Google Business profiles now. And for a lot of new law firms, for a lot of law firms out there, most of your calls, like the vast majority of your calls, are coming from Google Business and not your website. Marketing tracking and reporting can kind of make it hard to figure out, like, are these leads coming from Google Business? Do they ever visit our site? It, and it can make it look like most of these calls are coming from your website, but really they're not. They're coming from the Google Business listing. And also, what we see whenever we run ads or run local service ads is a lot of times people are just clicking on the first result. I'm sure a lot of you are running Google ads or have run Google ads and run into this problem where you start running ads and then you start getting a lot of wrong number phone calls. This issue is tied into kind of a long-standing myth, the idea of other business owners are targeting our brand keywords. And actually, this came up in a meeting with another marketer who was talking about how one of our competitors was bidding on our brand keyword, and it launched me into this lesson about Google Ads and how Google Ads works and broad match and phrase match, and maybe that's another some of those details are great topics for another episode. But when you have Google Ads and you have, like, broad match or phrase match targeting, your ads may still trigger for searches for your competitors. And so I've seen law firm Google Ads accounts that are inadvertently bidding on competitors' keywords. And I'm sure more than once, like, our competitors looked at our ads and said, like, they're bidding on our brand name, but we weren't. I knew we weren't, but I did see that the ads were coming up for those types of keywords. And so, it's a long-standing myth because, like, we've all seen it where certain businesses will set up ads that target their competitors' keywords or target their competitors' names. But a lot of times it's being done, like, accidentally, particularly in the personal injury space because of the way Google uses broad match or broad targeted keywords. Anyway, that was kind of branched off into Google Ads, but, those can spawn these wrong number phone calls. And so a lot of times what we see is, like, when people are getting ready to contact a law firm, they are using Google Map Hack. They're clicking on the results. They're probably not visiting the website because if somebody visited our website, they would see that we're not the law firm they were intending to call. And so the Google business profile is the almost literally the first point of contact with our target clients because that's probably the first thing that they'll see about us. That's the first marketing asset that they'll see that belongs to the firm. And everything that goes into that, the Google business profile is really important. And everything potentially has the ability to raise our position in Google business. And and then there are some things that have the potential to do nothing at all. That's kind of weird to say, but there's a lot of debate over how effective Google posts are and how much they can be used to manipulate Google business rankings. There's a lot of debate over service areas and how to use those and how often those matter. And, like, sometimes there's a lot of debate around, like, how something might affect rankings when maybe the answer is truly just really simple. For example, listing practice areas on Google Business, like, does it matter what practice areas are we listing? I mean, the answer might just be yes, it matters. Make sure that they're accurate, but a lot of people might still say, like, it doesn't matter. So I said all of that basically to set up the idea that Google Business is important. And you probably already knew this. And to set up the idea that Google Business is probably more important than your website in some respects. Because I have definitely seen law firm websites that perform really well for the keywords that we want to rank for. They do a really good job of drawing in visitors from the locations we want them to come from. So, like, we're not getting a lot of out of state visitors, we're getting a lot of visitors within our targeted areas. And so I've seen a website do great, and then the business still not get the calls that we would expect it to get because by comparison, the Google business profile is underdeveloped or yeah, underdeveloped's a good word for it. So there are like some key things that you can do to help your Google business profile stand out. And those things can be entirely independent of what you do on your website and specifically what you do on your website. And so all of that before I actually get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is the biggest things you could do to potentially help your Google business profile rank better. Now, a couple things to keep in mind here. Like, one, it's important to be consistent. If you want to have your Google business profile rank really well, then you want to just put in, you don't just want to put in the effort once. You want to put in the effort every week over a consistent period of time or a long enough period of time. And so this is not like a once optimization, do it and it's done kind of thing. It's a we need to be consistent and do these things over a long period of time before we want to see results, like weight loss or like any goal that you want to reach that just requires a lot of hard work. So, number one is backlinks. And that's like a controversial thing to mention, particularly when it comes to Google business. Now, I know talking about backlinks for Google business sounds kind of wild, but there are a lot of reports that we look at that compare the rankings of one Google business profile to another Google business profile. And what we see are the businesses that usually rank in the top three are also usually the businesses that have the most backlinks to their website. Now, not always. I've definitely seen Google business profiles with not very many backlinks rank above a website that has a ton of backlinks. Because again, it's not any one of these things that's gonna help us rise above the rest of the or our competitors. It's usually like a lot of things, a lot of hard work in conjunction to get to influence the rankings. So, backlinks is part of it, and but you don't have to have the most backlinks to get to the top of Google business. Now, like if you're asking yourself, like, how do I get more backlinks? Like getting backlinks is hard. And it's a lot of like traditional marketing stuff that we really haven't talked much about on this podcast. Things like sending out press releases, nurturing referral relationships, doing like digital PR. There are a lot of like digital PR campaigns, and you can find a lot of vendors for digital PR campaigns on LinkedIn. And these campaigns are ways that a vendor can generate a ton of high value backlinks for a law firm in a concentrated, like, 3-month span. Sometimes it takes longer than that, sometimes it takes less time than that, but a good digital PR campaign is gonna net you, like, high value backlinks, and I say high value, I mean, like, backlinks from websites that rank really well themselves, and that can help influence how your Google business profile ranks. I mean, that's it sounds crazy, but when it comes to the rules of SEO and the algorithm and the things that Google can measure that lend themselves to authority, expertise, like backlinks is one of them, and it's pretty reliable because usually people link back to authoritative people. And so if you're putting out content that's unique that nobody else is putting out, people are gonna link back to you. And well, I mean, it needs to be interesting. It needs to be more than just unique. But if you're making unique, interesting content that nobody else is making, you have a thought leadership angle that nobody else has, you can leverage that content to get more backlinks. Anyway, before I completely go down that rabbit hole, let's get on to like the next thing you can do for your Google business profile. And this one's it's obvious, it's reviews. Google business profiles are heavily influenced by how many reviews those profiles have. And even if you have a ton of reviews and you don't rank in the top three, you're still going to benefit from your Google business profile having tons of reviews because people respond to seeing a lot of reviews on a business. Really, like for me, and sometimes it's not the best choice to go to immediately to the business that has the most Google reviews. But, if I'm faced with a choice between calling 3 different types of businesses, one of them has 3 reviews and the other has 300 reviews, I am most likely going to get better customer service experience and a better experience overall with the business with 300 reviews. Reviews are just a mental shortcut for people to figure out like which business they should pick. And if you have like an overwhelming number, like more than your competitor, then it's going to make it easier for the potential client to pick you. Now, so there are a lot of strategies. And actually, I think in episode 1 or episode 2 of this podcast, we talked a little bit about review strategies. So I won't get into all of that in this episode. But I will say, like, if you're going to get reviews for your law firm, it's generally a better idea is to get reviews over an extended period of time and like consistently. So it's not necessarily a good strategy to get a ton of reviews in one flush anymore. And really what's better is to just be really consistent about asking for reviews and getting good reviews and good feedback. So if you're asking yourself like, hey, like, how can my internal team help with Google Business and help with the SEO? The best way like any in-house legal team can help with marketing is by getting reviews from clients. Because those reviews, like 10 reviews is just gonna have a huge impact over how many clients you can attract. I mean, depending on how many reviews you have to begin with. But I mean, 10 reviews is a big number. It's hugely valuable. It's like a huge valuable action that any in-house legal team can take to help a law firm marketing out. Okay, the third big tip I have for you to help you influence how your Google business profile ranks is by adding content to your business profile. And by adding content, I'm specifically talking about adding photos and then adding Google Posts. And again, this is a game of being consistent over a long period of time. So if you say, I want to add Google Post, don't just do it once a month, 8 months out of the year. You definitely want to do it weekly, sometimes more than weekly. And some SEOs will debate me on this, and that they may be right. Maybe it's not useful to post it more than once every 2 weeks. But it certainly is not gonna hurt you to post it more than once every 2 weeks. I mean, you can post as often as you can keep the content flowing onto the Google business profile. I don't think any SEO is gonna say, "No, stop. More is bad." So publish on your Google business profile, and even if you added photos, like, even in the last year, go back in and add new photos, like, make sure they're new. They could be of the same things at a different angle. Now, I think it's part of the Google rules that you can't have text overlay on these images, but I've also seen Google business profiles for attorneys that have text overlay. So it's clearly not off the table. So add text overlay, Google might remove them. That's fine. Add tons of photos of your office space, of your team, new headshots if you have them. Apparently, Google really likes when you're consistently adding, like, photos and posts and content to their business profiles page. So tip number 4, and this is a quick one, but add your social media links. So about a year ago, whenever the generative search experience that Google's been rolling out was just on the horizon, like people were talking about it, but we hadn't seen it yet. One thing that we were trying to figure out, like as marketers, is like how Google is going to decide how websites rank and how businesses rank because they were introducing EEAT. And so EAT, expertise, authority, trustworthiness, that's been around for a while. And then they added, what was the like experience or something like that? But it's basically like EEAT is an acronym that basically it's Google's way of saying like we reward genuine authority and expertise on the internet. Now, the question used to be like, "Oh, how do they do this without backlinks?" Because Google always said, like, "That's not a huge part of our ranking factor." Well, turns out it is. So, there you go. But back then, like, what a lot of us SEOs kind of discovered is that social links had an impact on how some websites rank. And previously, Google's stance on social links is that they didn't help or didn't hurt. But social signals like your follower count and how much content you produce are actually can be factors in your website and your overall like EEAT profile or score or whatever. Now, like I if you're detecting some hesitancy on my part talking about EEAT and like what that means, it's because like the recent Google leak kind of put some holes in that canoe, I guess. Like, you know, kind of a weird analogy, but there are only how do you measure expertise? Like, how do you measure authority? How do you measure trustworthiness? And the question of how is it measured is really important because there are only so many ways like Google as a search entity can measure like somebody's authoritativeness or trustworthiness on a topic. And a lot of those ways that it could measure it are based on things like backlinks and social signals, or if people click on something, or if people search for something, or how often this person, like, these are ways that can be measured that could potentially influence your EAT and help your website rank better. Um, and so, like, the Google leak showed us, like, exactly the things that I mentioned were how Google is measuring the, authority and expertise. But for me, like, one thing that's kinda stands out that still stands out to me is in your Google business profile and all that was being said, so I can lead you up to this tip, is in Google Business, you can actually input your social media account, and that is the newest feature. It was rolled out just, like, within the last 12 months or so. And so, like, I've actually seen, like, putting those links into the profile and clicking save has, like, some marginal effect on how that profile appears. And maybe that was just, like, this one instance, it's not consistent, like, putting in social media links to all of my Google business profiles. It didn't affect all of them, but it did affect one of them at least. Like, it seemed to be, like, a pretty positive movement immediately after putting those links into the profile. And again, it can't hurt, adding your social media profile links to Google Business certainly can't hurt you or how your website ranks in Google in general. So why wouldn't you? The last tip I have for you about how to influence how your Google Business profile ranks is using the service areas feature. Now this is a not an original Tiffany idea. I heard about this strategy from Nalini Prasad at Blue Shark. I also heard about it on LinkedIn that service areas, or basically the areas that you tell Google, like, I service these areas, can have an impact on your ranking. Now, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, if you go to your Google business profile and you click on your info, there's an area where you can list, like, what areas you serve. And there's a lot of different ways that you can input information there. You can say you service the entire state, so you just list your state. You can list individual cities, individual zip codes, and sometimes you can even list individual neighborhoods. And so adding service areas to your Google business listing can help expand your targeting and your reach with your Google business profile, but be cautious here because I have seen this go the complete wrong way where attorneys or law firms will update their Google business listing and say, like, we target the entire state. And so instead of ranking like really well for one tight location, they suddenly rank like kind of poorly throughout the entire state. So they go number one for their region to number five statewide. And number five statewide probably isn't a good place for you to be, depending on the keyword. So you don't want to go in there and just go crazy with the areas you're targeting with your Google business profile. You also have a limit how many locations you can add. So the max is 20, and you can add that many to your profile. And I recommend looking at a map, looking at a Google map specifically, and looking at the named neighborhoods and cities in Google Maps. And, if you scroll in and out, zoom in and out with your mouse, you can see which names like stick around the longest the further you zoom out. And those tend to be like high population areas or areas that get like a lot of search traffic from Google. But what I've seen work with service areas is that you target the smaller, like areas within your city, like the neighborhoods, and you focus like immediately around your business location. And instead of like going statewide, you target like the bottom quarter of your municipality or your city. And you get like the most reach because you're not bidding so far away from your actual physical location that it's kind of confusing. And then you're staying where your listing is gonna be most potent. A lot of people when they're looking for attorneys, they're still in the mindset that they need somebody local. Because a lot of people, when they go to hire a law firm, they don't know if they're gonna show up and have to do an in-person meeting. They don't know if this can be all virtual. Some people might assume that an attorney from their city is gonna be more sympathetic or harder working or understand the laws unique to their area a little bit better. So people still look for local law firms. Now, if you're searching for an attorney or you're searching for a business in Google Business and the one you're looking at you realize is like 50 miles away from you, you might click back. You might go back to the original result because, a lot of times, like if you're looking for service or repairs on something, 50 miles is a long way to drive. You might be doing them a favor. Or you just, see, one option that's really far away that looks good, but also there are options closer by that still look as attractive. So you're gonna go with those options. So, trying to expand your reach very far away without a physical location is tough to do these days. It's tough to do because of user behavior. It's tough to do because of how Google works and how their ranking algorithm works. It still puts a focus on local first. So there's only so much you can do with a physical location and then trying to show up in Google Business for a location across the state without opening up an extra office. The idea of satellite offices and satellite locations to get more clients through Google Business is an old idea. And so, like, the truth is, like, yes, we can open up satellite offices, and as long as those offices meet the minimum requirements by Google, we can use those offices to rank in new locations. And a lot of businesses use this tactic. A lot of law firms use this tactic. Even the settlement mill, big law firms, some of them will use local service ads actually to bid in marketplaces where they don't actually have physical location. The idea of showing up in the Google Map hack is like so powerful. So, yes, you can open up satellite offices, you can benefit from that. Sometimes it's tough. Actually, most of the time it's really tough because unless you're actually planning on setting up and establishing a full ass office in a new location that's staffed with its own like business records and phone number, like it's a fully established office. Like unless you're doing that, it can be hard to find office space that's reasonably priced that will meet the qualifications where you're not just opening up a full office space. And sometimes it's hard to find a space where there isn't already law firms present. So if there's already a business, if there's already a law firm there competing in the same practice area, you're going to be working that business listing for a long time, getting more reviews, adding more content, because I mean Google, I guess, kind of favors the incumbent. And so, like, if there's already an established presence there, it's the same practice area. Google is only going to pick one of those to rank. And so you need to be careful about where you pick your office locations and what businesses are around them. And if it passes Google muster, because Google's not going to let you can't open Regis office spaces anymore. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Those are easy to pick on, those are easy to find. And Google also has a pretty like stringent review process for setting up new spaces, like new business offices. A lot of times we're doing Google phone call, like a phone call with the Google rep, where we're showing up and saying like, "Here's the space," and it's super awkward. Anyway, so that's like you have to like play by Google's rules when it comes to setting up the Google business offices, but they absolutely can't help. And if you're also willing to put in the work and get those more reviews to those spaces. Okay, so that's the end of the episode. Shorter than the episodes where me and Christine are talking, because a lot of times me and Christine have fun. She's not gonna be with us in the next episode as well. She's gonna be back for episode number this is episode number 4 or 5. She'll be back for episode number 6, where we'll talk about something super interesting. I'll take a few moments here to plug my short marketing mastermind program. This is a marketing mastermind for law firm marketers. So if you're a marketer who works for a law firm or you own a law firm and you have a marketer And you want to give them the strategies that my company uses for other law firms in their marketing to get more leads, grow revenue, and get more reviews. Also, in the program, they'll get on a 1.5 hour live call with me once a month where we'll go over the latest in legal marketing, talk about swag ideas, talk about the strategies that we're using, and just get exposed to all of this stuff. I also am curating a library of training resources for marketers specifically, and so these are gonna be templates, how-to guides, marketing plans for everything that I've used for my clients and stuff that I've used a million times before. They're getting access to all of that. Actually, today, something I'm working on after getting off this podcast that by the time this podcast launches will probably be done. But the membership portal and the membership website where your marketer has a one-stop place they can log in and get all of this stuff. They don't have to chase the link down in their email. They just have it all and they know where it is. And all of that is with the Short Marketing Mastermind program. So visit my website. There's a pop-up at the top of the site where you can click and look at the program page. You can also visit shortmarketingmastermind.com. I think there's some links in my LinkedIn bio where you can learn more. But if you want your marketer to learn from me, basically get them to sign up. Love having them as part of the group. We're doing our first meeting on this coming Wednesday, which is just in 2 days. I'm really excited. Anyway, guys, see you next episode. Talk to you soon.